Council regular meeting of March 2nd, 2026 to order. We will start with a prayer from Deputy Mayor Santinella, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
We gather tonight as neighbors entrusted with the responsibility of serving this community. May those seated here approach our work with clarity, fairness, and respect for one another. May we listen with patience, speak with civility, and remember that every decision made here affects real families and real lives. Let us also take a moment tonight to hold in our thoughts the men and women of our armed forces who are in harm's way. We remember their courage and sacrifice, as well as the strength of their families who support them from far from home. May they be kept safe, and may they return safely home soon. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And number 3, roll call, please, Sheila.
Deputy Mayor Santinella.
Here.
Councilor Thomas is absent. Councilor Ungary is she here? No. Absent. Councilor Zanoni.
Here.
Councilor Allegro is absent. Mayor Sakala.
Here.
Councilor Crissati.
Here.
Councilor Hall. Here. Councilor Mangini.
Here.
Councilor Matthews.
Here.
And Councilor Pisner.
Here.
8 members are present, 3 are absent.
Item 4 on the agenda is the fire evacuation announcement. In the unlikely event of a fire and emergency, there are 2 means of exits in the council chambers. You can exit out the rear or to the front of us, go down the stairs and away a safe distance from the building, or you can go down the stairs here to my left, to the audience right, down the stairs and out into the parking lot. Minutes from the preceding meeting. Can I get a motion to approve the special meeting of February 17th, 2026?
Second.
Any questions, comments? All right, sensing none, all in favor? 8 in favor. Any abstention? 1. All right, 7 in favor, 1 abstention. Sorry, Sheila. And a regular meeting minutes of February 17th, 2026. Can I get a motion?
So moved. Second.
Thank you. Any comments, deletions, changes? All right, all in favor? 7 in favor, 1 abstention. Item 6, special guests, there are none. Item 7, public communications and petitions. Any Enfield resident or taxpayer who wishes to address the council shall be first recognized by the chair and shall state their name and address for the record. You will get 5 minutes this first round. After everyone who wants to speak the first time, you can get 3 minutes for the second round. And during public communications, item 14 on the agenda, if we get there before 11 p.m., you will get 3 minutes. It is limited to 1 hour unless we extend it by majority vote. All remarks to the council should be made as a whole to us, not any individual members, please. And all remarks addressed to the administration shall be addressed through the town manager. Public members and councilors shall observe proper decorum and good conduct. First on the list is David Alexander. Come on up, David.
Good evening. David Alexander, 277 Pearl Street. I have something I want to raise that's pretty quick, and when you look at it, I would hope that everyone on the town council, everyone in municipal government would like this, and it's to do with ECS money. And obviously this is budget season, and education is a priority. When you look at this, ECS funding, by and large throughout the whole state, has been held flat every year since Governor Lamont took office, even prior to that. When you factor in inflation, the Connecticut Mirror is reporting that the state, these towns, Enfield, all these towns have been shortchanged to the sum of about $400 million since 2019. That's a big hit on every municipality beyond Enfield. And that has to really stop. You know, your school budgets cannot go lower than what it was last year. Yet we're shortchanging everyone on ECS. And I am of the opinion they need to, and I would recommend that everyone here advocate for this, that they change state statute to actually earmark ECS funding on inflation. So let's just say you go by the Labor Bureau statistics stats. If inflation at the end of the year is, say, 2.4%, then ECS funding across the board for every town should go up by the same amount. Put it this way. Let's just say it's 2.4% inflation this year for Enfield. Your ECS funding is at $29.82 million. If you change state statute to mandate this, Enfield would get $715,000 as an increase. Because think of it this way. Let's say I give you $5 today. I give you $5 the next year. It's $5, but the buying power for that $5 has decreased by the inflation rate. So let's just say the inflation rate was 3% the next year. That $5 is worth 3% less. So what's going on is every town is being shortchanged and asking to do more with less. The federal government always hits the state government, and you have the hardest job because you're on the local level getting hit by the federal government and the state. You can change state statute to mandate this. And if you do that, you would actually statutorily guarantee that ECS funding would never be cut. Because even if you had a zero inflation year or deflation, you'd have to statutorily keep your funding at the same level. It's not fair because towns like Enfield are forced to either raise taxes or cut education services. My final comment about this, when I was out at UC Berkeley, my accounting professor would say, a government budget is a statement of a community's priorities, and I think education should be the priority, has to be the priority. And you really can change the state statute to mandate it stays with inflation. And if we do that, we wouldn't be shortchanging our communities, our local government for education, and we would be making public education a priority. So, quick, simple idea. I think it could be done bipartisanly. I think it makes sense. I think we could enact it. I would encourage everyone here to advocate that as we move forward. Any questions? I will gladly answer them.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Senator Kissel, come on up.
Let's see. Good evening. Good evening. State Senator John Kissel, 16 Frew Terrace here in Enfield, Connecticut. I'll start off by saying Mayor Sakala, Deputy Mayor Santinella, and State Representative Santinella, and Minority Leader Hall, Representative Hall, and esteemed members of the Town Council. I have what I consider some really exciting news, and it's very timely, and I wanted to come and announce it to you folks because it's issues that have been of concern to not only this Town Council, but previous year's Town Councils, and time is of the essence. And I also want to thank Lucien Lefebvre and Pam Townsend. They utilize this forum a lot of times to announce parades and other veterans things. And so I said, how can I get out this information to the town council as well as folks that are like me, that are junkies on the town council, but we like to be home and watching it on TV. So I figured get this information out to you folks this evening as well. And I won't take 5 minutes. I'm really excited because Representative Santinella and Representative Hall know how hard it is to get bills raised for a public hearing. And there's 2 bills that I have worked really hard this year to get raised for a public hearing, and I want the public to know that they have been raised by 2 different committees, and that I'm encouraging both anybody on the council that would like to weigh in. There's ways to do it via in-person, Zoom, or send in your written testimony. And that would have to be done on these 2 bills by tomorrow at 6 o'clock, because the hearings, as fate would have it, are both on Wednesday at 11 a.m. And the first bill that I think is of concern to a lot of folks here in town has to do with the solar arrays. And I know that Representative Hall in particular has been trying to limit the solar arrays up here in north central Connecticut. She's worked across party lines with Jamie Foster, the representative from Ellington, and I've supported proposals to have moratoriums. Energy and Technology Committee has sort of been a real tough climb. So this year I put forward a bill that had to do with the environmental impacts of solar arrays, and it's been raised by the Environment Committee. They've been much more open to concerns. And so the bill that I actually champion, and is going to be heard Wednesday at 11 a.m., is Senate Bill 316, and it's acts concerning the siting of certain solar facilities. And the purpose of this bill is it requires the Department of Energy and Environmental Protection to test the soil underneath soil arrays starting a year from now, every 2 years, every biennium. Now, I know that Katie Dykes, the Commissioner of DEEP, will probably come in there, or her folks from that department say, we don't have it in our budget, and that's not unusual to have the administration push back on some of these things. But if enough folks from Enfield and the surrounding communities say, hey, we're concerned about the environmental impacts to the soil and to the groundwater, this bill could have some legs and get voted out of the Environment Committee. So I encourage everybody, if you have concerns about the solar arrays and their impact on the underlying soil, this is also an opportunity to talk about how it affects your neighborhoods and how, hey, it's great up in our neck of the woods, but we're willing to share the love with other parts of the state. It seems to be getting put up here, a lot having to do with the lay of the land and our former tobacco fields. So really, that's the first bill. The second bill is Senate Bill 309, and that has to do with special education. So I want to thank Superintendent Macchio. He met with me for several hours a few months ago, as well as 5 other superintendents in my districts, and we went over a lot of things affecting special education. And one of them was, and you are very well aware of this, is if you have children with special needs that enter into your district partway through the school year, you haven't budgeted for them, and that can be like a $300,000, $400,000 whack. Part of what this bill would do is it would create a fund administered by the State Department of Education to allow for a change in your funding to the municipality if that happens to you, and it affects your budget as of March 1st, so in the middle of your school year. And then the towns would make an application. The other thing is there's this thing called SEDS, the State Special Education Data System, and the state set up this online data system. It was supposed to be great for towns, great for parents. It tends to be created in a way that's really good for the state to monitor what towns are doing, not as user-friendly for parents, not as user-friendly for teachers. It would require free teaching of how to use this system done by the state. Again, there's a cost to it, but it would allow parents as well as teachers to monitor the services provided to the special needs children. And I have been the ranking member on the Select Committee on Special Education. It only lasted 1 year, but I continue with that by meeting with all my towns and actually touring their special ed facilities. So in a nutshell, those are 2 key bills. Folks may want to weigh in on the education bill, again, Wednesday at 11 a.m., or the environment bill, same time. I'm not exactly sure of the rooms, but the last point that is important is how do you get it to do this? Call my office. Caitlin Liaggio is my legislative aide, 240-0531. I said, you might get bombed tomorrow morning. She goes, that's okay. So bomb my office with calls if you're watching at home, or email my office, John, John, Kissel at cga.ct.gov. I would also say you've got 2 reps, great reps, Democrat, Republican on the council. Reach out to Representative Hall and Representative Santinella. They know how you can get involved in talking on a bill. So you got tremendous resources here in Enfield. There may be folks in other parts of the district as well listening in. And so I just wanted to get this out there because time is of the essence. The hearing is on Wednesday. The time to sign up is by tomorrow at 6 o'clock. And this is an opportunity. And even if the bills don't get voted out of committee, if a lot of people testify and raise their voices, this is the way to get issues heard in Hartford. And that's the way to get them legs. And I think special education, especially special education funding, is a huge issue that I'm very concerned with, as well as the environmental impacts of these solar arrays on residential neighborhoods in particular, but on our water table, and then what we're going to be able to do with this land when these arrays have run their course. And again, those are the contact information. I'm going to leave some information with Town Manager Koppler that you can use if you want. You can post it, not post it. And I just hope that Councilor Crissati, that Brian did well on the hockey game on Saturday. And I just want to thank all of you for your public service.
Thank you. Greg.
I'm actually going to come back in 2 weeks. I had some new information pop up, so I want to...
No problem. All right, no problem. Anyone else? I don't know if anybody else has signed up, but is there anyone else in the audience who hasn't? Come on up. Thank
How you doing tonight? Trisha Wright, 66 Oakwood Street, and I scooted in late because I was watching the previous town council meeting on YouTube, and those rotten commercials made everything last a lot longer, so I apologize for coming late. I was very heartened by last meeting, by the town manager's presentation and the thoughtfulness, and it kind of rides on the same thoughtfulness that's behind the referendum that will be put forth to us this fall about the schools. And what I liked about both of the presentations, the community conversation that I went to earlier in February and Mr. Koppler's presentation 2 weeks ago, is the whole picture of what the plans could potentially be. It's not just we need to fix the buildings or we need to fix the roads. It's looking at the entire picture and the ripple effect of the projects that are hopefully going to be made to make our town a better place to be. So I just want to say, in my humble opinion, that I hope that more citizens watch the meetings, watch the community conversation, that the referendum does pass, because to steal Mr. Daigle's quote from the end of the conversation, there is no plan B. It's not fiscally responsible to Band-Aid, and my personal handyman is duct tape, but that's at my house. It doesn't need to be at the schools. I really think that we finally are on a path that we are looking at what our decisions are going to, again, the ripple effect of the decisions and the projects that are coming, the maintenance on the buildings, that there's going to be a maintenance plan for the school buildings, which I'm sure there would be a maintenance plan for any of the town buildings that are being affected and built. And that's what we need. Instead of being reactive, we need to be as proactive as possible. Emergencies happen, that's what happens with life. But if we can anticipate things and maintain what we already have and the new things that we'll be able to have, I think our town will be in a much more stable position. So I just want to thank you guys for working together. Please don't let this become a political football. I went down the rabbit hole last year of the budget process, and God bless you all. I hope that it's a much more amicable situation on all the sides. I really appreciated Mr. Koppler's compliment to the superintendent. I think the two of you sitting down would be a great thing to have happen, that this is what the education is looking at, this is what the town is looking at. I'm sure there's a lot of overlap that could happen to make everybody be in a better position. So thank you for all of your hard work. Please keep it up. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in the audience for the first time? Anyone for the second time? All right, well, I will declare public communications closed. Number 8 on the agenda is counselor communications. Any counselors have any comments? Counselor Zanoni?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I will be brief. I had the opportunity to go to the library today to get a library card, and I just wanted to give a shout out that it is the start of Women's History Month, and they took some time to work on a display in the foyer for women's history, so if people are interested, to take the opportunity to go and do that. That is all I have, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Counselor Zanoni. Counselor Mangini?
Thank you. March is Women's Month, so I want us all to reflect on very important women of our past, of our present, and going forward to our future. I can't name them all, but they're out there. Of all races, of all religions. So let's think during this month of the wonderful women that have paved our way. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other counselor communications? Counselor Crissati?
Yeah, thank you. I do have a few announcements. First of all, just in regard to Mr. Alexander and Senator Kissel, comments about ECS funding and how towns are getting shortchanged, and that's a definite. And you know, the idea of what you presented, you know, does make sense. So I'm sure that everybody's listening to that and can hear that. Also, in regard to Senator Kissel, we did have a conversation on Saturday about these two bills, and with the solar array, and I think it's a pretty good idea. with the environmental issues that are being presented with that department and testing of the soil. And I think it'd be a good idea for people to make comments about this, and I think it's very important. And then on special education and the funding and the free teaching of the system of special needs, it's very important. There's a lot of families that are out there with children of special needs, and they don't really know all the resources and what state programs are being offered. So I think that's a good idea, and I also like the idea of funding of special ed students, and if they happen to, during the school year, happen to transfer to a different town within the state, that the money follows them. I think that's a pretty good idea. So the town doesn't have to incur all of those unnecessary costs. So that is very important. So for them to come and just mention that is a good thing. Also, I did attend this weekend Special Olympics Winter Games, which was held at Eversource this weekend. It's a 2-day event that dealt with cross-country and snowshoeing. I have to say that congratulations to all the members of the Enfield Stars and their performances. They had fun. They had a great weekend. The weather cooperated this year. The people at Eversource usually have to make the snow and stay up like in the wee hours of the evening to make the snow. But this year, the snow was there. Four Seasons Landscaping did the grooming of the courses, and it was beautiful. You know, I've been attending these events for the last 20 years, and this year was above and beyond. The conditions were really perfect for all the athletes, so that was a nice event. The next event that I had the honor of attending was the Ujima African American Alliance Group Black History event that was held at the Enfield Public Library. And if you wanted some soul food, they really, you know, the collard greens and the fried chicken that was offered to everybody was just absolutely outstanding. Rosalind Swift and her team, they have to be commended for a wonderful afternoon and all the speakers that presented. I wasn't there for the full celebration, but I was there for the opening of the celebration and at least half of it anyway. Also attended First Readers. Great event. I also look forward to that ceremony that's coming up on March 17th. You know, trivia is, you know, people were pretty competitive. I think some people had their phones out, though, you know. I don't see how some people could answer all of these questions, but regardless. But today, once again, Read Across America. I had the pleasure of reading to Room 7, which, you know, I'll keep those kids in my heart for a while. We had a great time, all the children, and reading of Dr. Seuss book. I read Green Eggs and Ham, and, you know, and they love Sam I Am, you know, but it was a fun day, enjoyed it. And so, you know, I could go on, but I don't want to get too long-winded here. But I do want to give a shout-out to our DPW staff over their work in clearing the roads and the sidewalks. And, you know, I know later on in the meeting, you know, we're going to be, you know, resolutions for additional salt to help with the roads. But I have to say, the staff and everybody and all the custodians in the schools and everything to get school and to have school that next day, you know, kudos to everybody. So also on another note, Matt, through the mayor to our town manager, I know that we have a policy and procedures meeting coming up next week, and so I'm looking forward to that meeting that we had scheduled, and I'll put a hook to myself today. Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Counselor Crissati. Counselor Pisner, did you have anything? I just don't want to forget you. Okay, thank you. Counselor Hall?
I'm okay,
you
thank
good?
you.
Okay. Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, I just have a couple of things that I would like to add. The Eli Whitney PTO on Saturday is hosting a purse and power tools bingo. It is going to be at the American Legion on Enfield Street. If you would like more information, you can email ewpto@yahoo.com. It's $40 per person to attend if you're interested in bingo and need either a new purse or power tools. Also, the 4th of July committee still has tickets available for Saturday night for their fundraising event, which is going to be at the Elks Club. If anybody is interested in attending that event, tickets are still available for that. Also, through the mayor to the town manager, I just want to follow up on Mr. Alexander's comments. I believe Wednesday, the Education Committee is having a public hearing on indexing the ECS funds. And I think if it would be a good idea if someone from the town or if the town council could submit testimony. I know that there are some teachers from town who are coming to speak. I didn't know this was a subject. I don't want to misquote the bill number. I don't remember the bill number off the top of my head, but I know that that's up for discussion. And I think he raises a very important point. Indexing the $11,000 base rate from 12 years ago would absolutely help all of us. And if there's a way that we or you or the superintendent could submit testimony on that, I think it would be impactful and meaningful to us to at least have some representation to do that. No need, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to add, if that's something that council has a consensus on, we can put something together and try to get that done.
So what would you need from us? Because I think it would be worthwhile for us to have some testimony. Do we do it as a council? Do we do it individually? I don't know what the council's preference would be, but it's an item for discussion, and I think it's worth us submitting at least some understanding of what the impact of that would be.
Yeah, I don't know if you want to add it later on for a
So
discussion.
you would need us to add it to the agenda to ask to.
Or just right now, if the mayor feels there's a consensus for us to put something together for that, I can put something together, get it out to everyone before that date, and make sure we get something submitted.
Sort of a statement from the council?
Yeah.
I mean, there's probably consensus to do something like that, but it will probably need to see it first.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, we're under a time crunch, and so there might be some back and forth, but I mean, I think it sounds like a good idea to have a statement from the town.
Okay.
Nods of heads. Yeah.
Okay. That's all that I had. Thank you.
All right. I just had one or two items. Thank you to our senator for coming, and Dave and Tricia for your comments. It is already March. For those people who did not watch or see, Tuesday of last week, the Board of Education passed their proposed budget. They will be presenting to the town council on the 30th of this month. And after that, we will be getting our budget proposal from the town side and budget deliberations. Budget season is coming. So if people haven't watched the Board of Education meeting from last week, I would suggest you go on and do that. They do a really good job of explaining sort of the numbers and the impact. So that is all I had. Number 9 is town manager report. Take it away, Matt.
Good evening. You're learning. only thing I really had, well, there's actually two things, but one thing I want to talk about. I had let everyone know, so I don't know if you saw my email or not, but late Friday, well, early Friday afternoon, but I didn't see it till late. We got notice from Congressman Courtney's office that the congressional projects application process is now open, and we have until this Friday to get it done. Considering that, and I always go back in time with these things, and I apologize for that, but in the past, we had a lot more time. And normally what would happen is staff would put together a series of ideas, get it to council. Council would say, like that, don't like that, hey, about this. And then we would put the applications together and then submit them, bring them back to council, submit them after that. Don't have that luxury this time. So Aaron and I put our heads together and said, okay, less than $2 million, because that's one of the parameters, what can we put together really quick? And what we did was come up with two ideas related to some soft costs drivers for large projects. First project is for the public safety complex. And one of the things that's never really been done is the putting together of what that project would be and start looking at the design and engineering / architect work that needs to be done. The town, as you all know, did pass a referendum. It was for a larger project, and it put aside, I think, $2.5 million, $2 to $2.5 million from town money. And then we got a small portion, about $2.6 million, I believe, from the state in a grant. And then the remainder of the project, which was, I think, estimated around $15 million, came from funding through the bond commission, i.e. the state. The state has kind of let us know that they're not really interested in helping us with that. And I know during our goal setting, we talked a little bit about, well, you know, this is an issue. You know, we have building constraints with the current police department. We have severe building issues with our EMS. So these are things that are, I mean, we like to say, oh, well, maybe someday, but I don't know when someday is going to come that it's an emergency rather than have the ability to fix something. And so our thought on this is that we can submit this, we can start the real design, preliminary engineering, preliminary architecture work that actually gets us to a project that we can talk to people about. Right now, if you ask me, will $15 million build what everyone thought it would build? My answer is no, it won't. Just, it won't. And there's a process you have to go through the planning stages to make sure that you actually know what it is you're building. At the very least, if we would apply for this and get this funding, we know we have $2.6 million that we can put towards something in the police / EMS realm to get them further along. But if we don't get money for the soft costs, the engineering, architect, getting out to bid, we're going to have to share $2.6 million in doing that. So what we would recommend is we apply for federal funding, get the plans, the engineering piece done, so we can possibly move into construction with that $2.6 million at the very least. At the very best is maybe we reformulate that whole project and put it into something that we can sell to the public and possibly sell to someone else and get additional money for. So that's kind of our thinking why we went that direction with that particular project. The second item we would apply for would be for, again, those soft costs, engineering design, preliminary design, for building the pier out into the river. Again, I know it's something that people have talked about. There is a large amount of engineering and environmental work that will go along with that, especially as we start dealing with the Army Corps of Engineers. So you may say, wow, that's a lot for a pier, $2 million. Hopefully it'll be less than that, but there are a lot of pieces to it that's going to drive that cost up more than just, you know, drawing a picture of what we're going to be doing. So that was kind of our thought. There was like 6 things that we thought of right away, but we just knew we weren't in a position to put those together in such a short amount of time. And so I'd be asking tonight if we could add that to the agenda if you would like later on, so we can, yes. And I put it at your desk so you have that with the language if you'd like to do that. The second item, there was some questions that was asked at the last meeting regarding the RFP process for the town attorney. I know Steve has put some information to go back, and if it's okay, I'd like him to kind of go through those questions and answers.
Thank you, Matt. And these are regarding the questions that Councilor Hall asked me during the last meeting, and thank you, Councilor Hall, for giving me time to do some research, because there's no way I would have done a disservice to everyone if I was just winging it, because there's a lot of data here. So what we did is that we went back and looked at the council meeting. We transcribed your questions, so I had them exactly how you asked them. The first question was, how did the RFP process transpire, and how was it actually followed through? Basically, the town manager asked me who drafted the town attorney RFP last time. I told him I drafted the last 2 town attorney RFPs. He told me, good, do the same thing you did last time. And I basically changed the dates of the RFP to reflect the current year. And we started the process, which generally has a signature by the town attorney and the director of finance, along with myself, to initiate the formal process of an RFP. This is a form that they use all the time, I guess. The manager signature, sign-off sheet, name of the bid, the RFP. The second question is, what did I think it's, when did the RFP go out? Where did it go? Where was it posted? How long was it posted for? Thankfully, our purchasing assistant has very detailed notes. Went out on November 19th to the, we posted on the town website for 30 days, posted it on the state website for 30 days, posted on this electronic communication called email pub notice for 30 days, posted on the legal notice and lobby for 30 days. It's also posted in the RFP specs on SharePoint. It's there infinitely. We published in the Hartford Current on November 21, 2025. That's a one-day posting. It's hard copy print. And then I was just concerned we weren't going to get enough, so I had Michelle in my office contact CCM, and we posted it there on their jar board for 19 days. So we posted this 6 or 7 different electronic or print communications. All right. Number 3, who authorized the terms of the RFP and who authorized what went in the RFP? Basically Matt Koppler again, but I know he gets his information from the procurement process in the town charter. So we last year, just for background, we did about 25 RFPs last year between public works, engineering, a lot of things, just that we do all the time. And department directors have the authority under the charter to submit these RFPs. Was the RFP ever submitted to our town attorney's office, like Mark or somebody, to review it before it was posted? Yes, it was. Mark Serrato did review it November 19th. He sent it to Matt and myself along. He copied the town attorney as well when he submitted that he did review it as approved to form only. So the answer to that is yes. Did any negotiations take place with any of the applicants before there was a vote taken on the town attorney? No, there was no negotiations. When did the decision and discussion take place to change the terms of the actual RFP? No terms were changed in the RFP, other than the dates. When we were discussing hourly wage, why were we not complying with what we put out in the RFP? We did comply with the RFP. Section 3D in the RFP specifically asks, legal services will be supplied to the town. What's the general approach to serving as the town's attorney, and how are these services, would they be billed? Town attorney Jim Tallberg submitted his response to the same RFP language, and he gave hourly rates too. I don't know if Tom Tyler did, but it's not unusual for them to submit, because we are soliciting that information. How are you going to charge the town or bill the town? Last question, were there meetings, discussions with people that took place outside of the council? Yes, there was many meetings, many discussions with many people. I started losing track, because I talked to all 3 candidates multiple times. I know Matt talked to a lot of candidates. I think he talked to you. He talked to various counselors multiple times. Matt and I had a meeting with Maya and Zach, a conference call, because they had questions on how does, I think explaining the RFP, what the terms are for law firms, so we had to go over some terminology like that. Matt spoke to Tom Tyler. Matt spoke to, I think, the mayor many times. We discussed it in leadership. I just ran out of how many places we discussed it. There was a lot of discussion, but that's all I have for answers at this point. But thankfully, you gave me time to research because there was a lot there. So that's all I have, unless anyone has any questions.
Thank you. Anything else from the town managers?
Nope.
Okay. Number 10, town, oh, okay. Did you had a question for the town manager? Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. So, Matt, on the resolution that you distributed for the federal grants, was there criteria given as far as what those the $2 million and the $2 million could be used for? And the reason I ask is we've got so many CIP projects that we can use $2 million and $4 million basically for. We've got infrastructure, we've got roads, drainage, pump stations, we've got fields and parking lots and all kinds of things that really need to be done that are CIP projects. So as much as I totally support the police station, the state funds that we got were from us fighting to get those put into that grant, and they came from our side, the Republican side of the budget. So those funds came out of our bond money. So I absolutely support it. The problem I have with doing the design work is exactly what you said. The governing body that's in power right now is not going to fund police stations. He said that in no uncertain terms. So my question is, if we're doing the design work, what are we doing the design work for, right? So you're saying 15 million isn't going to do the project. We know the governor is not going to give us the money for the building. What is the plan for that?
Yeah. So I think, well, let me answer the first part of your question.
Okay.
I think there are a lot of different things that could be applied for. As you go through, and I had provided leadership the email that we received, and so it has to fit in one of those different agencies' funding mechanisms.
Yeah, I think it was like 26 pages you sent to us late tonight.
Yeah, there's a lot of potential places it could go. One of the issues that we have is we haven't had those conversations to know what the priorities are. And so one of the hopes is, maybe there's something else you all can think of really quick here tonight in this conversation to say, hey, how about this? And everybody looks at each other and says, that's a great idea. Why don't we apply for that? Because we can put this together pretty quickly. But again, we don't have that list right now that we can, say that we've talked to you about.
Yep.
Now the good news, I forgot to tell you this, that earlier today we got the notice from the senators, Blumenthal and Murphy, that they're starting their process. It's going to be longer. So we're going to start doing this now, looking at that and getting that work done so we can come to you with a better plan, and hopefully, you agree that this is a better way to go. It's just, it was an opportunity. I hate passing on funding opportunities.
Agreed.
So we just tried to put it together as quickly as possible.
So this could be, not to interrupt you, but this could be used for the mains that need to be replaced, like the design work for the mains that you have concerns about. Could this be used for fields, turf fields at Fermi? Could it be used for parking lots at Shaker Field that needs to be redone? I mean, there's so many things I can think of that need to be done. I just look at the police design work and go, it's going to be another design that's going to go right in the shelf, and there goes $2 million that we could have used for real projects that really need to be addressed. So
my thinking with the work for the public safety complex is we're going to have to deal, we might be able to get by with the police department the way it is for a couple of years. But the reality is we've run out of space already. We have issues. We need to do something. Right? EMS, we ran out of space a number of years ago, right? And we have to do something. I mean, it's not a matter of, can we make it any longer? The answer is no. We have to do something. And I think this will allow us to put that stake in the ground, saying, okay, this is what we are going to do, and start working through the funding process to actually be able to get it done. I mean, not liking it to a fire station, but having gone through a process down in Florida, different cost, granted. Fire stations are being built for around $5 to $7 million right now in the United States, in that range. We're probably not at the same degree as a fire station, so we're probably $5 to $6 million, my guess, for an EMS station. There probably isn't anybody who's going to give us $5 or $6 million, and so we're going to have to make a determination if we're going to move forward with that. And I don't know what the alternatives, right? I mean, that's the problem with this is that unless
we can talk to our fire departments. We've had that discussion too, but that's for another day.
Yeah, but I guess that's kind of my thought is it would get us into a position to be able to have an understanding of what it is we have to meet in terms of the funding. I mean, it's very similar to what you're doing with the you're doing with the school modernization. I mean, you have to come up with a plan that you can explain to people so you can go to the next step. But I don't disagree that there are other things that we could apply for. And to be honest, this was our attempt to put something together. If there is a idea you all can get together on tonight and say this is what we want, Aaron, I know, will hate me, but he will put something together really quick, and we can still get something in before the end. But we didn't, had we had this last Wednesday, this would have been a discussion at leadership.
Right.
And I think we could have been better prepared to meet everyone's needs, but we just didn't have the luxury. So this is how we have to have that conversation. And so whatever it is you guys want to see us apply for, we can do it. I will say that recreational type pursuits are probably not going to be good ideas with what the different committees that or agencies that they provided us. I know sewer, it would fit into a couple different areas. The problem with the sewer is we're working right now to put together a preliminary plan that would then yield us the ability, I think, to be more intelligent in applying with what it is we need to do, because we have to come to grips with where is that pump station that's now on the other side of the railroad tracks going to go, and once we know that, and then we can figure out how the pipes all have to work together to get to the sewer plant. But until we know that, it's kind of difficult to say that we have a project.
That's all part of the design work.
Yeah. Well, I mean, ultimately, it will be that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, again, if you put this on the agenda later on, talk about it, and you all come to agreement really quick on what it is you want to see, we can put something together.
Okay. All right. So that was my main question. It sounds like we have a variety of options that money could be used for in the town, that we already have projects lined up for. Okay. And then, Steve, thank you for putting that together. The only question I have for you on the answers is, can you just, in regards to Attorney Serrato reviewing it, did he have any specific recommendations or changes in his response to you that he recommended you do before the RFP went out?
Did. Attorney RFP specs have been reviewed and are approved as to form only. The RFP should specify that per the town charter, the town attorney shall be an attorney admitted to practice law in the state of Connecticut for a minimum of 5 years. And the RFP is subject to the review by the risk manager and the town council for substantive matters, including but not limited to salary range, the date the RFP is issued, the deadline for submission of proposals, and a selection date.
So he recommended that come back to the council to review those items.
I don't know if it was before or after when he wanted it. Let's see. Salary range, date the RFP is issued, deadline for submission, and the selection date.
So can you get us a copy of that,
Yeah,
please?
this is
Thanks, Steve.
affordable, yeah.
Thank you. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Pisner?
Okay, thank you. I have to agree with Counselor Hall about using that $2 million. I don't want to snub my nose at it, but I don't really want to see it go to something that's not shovel ready. I'd rather see it go to something like our roads or our infrastructure, maybe the new turf field. I know, Matt, you just said recreation isn't maybe something they'll look at, but I'd like to see it go towards something like that. That's just my 2 cents on it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions for the town manager? Counselor Zanoni?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through the mayor to the town manager. So if I understood what you said correctly, down the road in the coming weeks, you anticipate an additional opportunity for applications through the Senate end. Okay, so this is not our last opportunity to have these type of conversations.
Correct.
Okay, because I know when I got your email, some things came to mind for me, like one of the big things is economic development in North Main Street and doing streetscaping with that. And I'm just wondering when that would be an appropriate conversation to have under the Senate option, or if Aaron has stuff that he could do for this option as well.
Yeah. Well,
Because-
I think, you don't have to submit the same projects for these. I mean, other places I've been, I think actually when I was here last, we did submit all the same. Other places I've been because of the differences in the timeframes and the differences in what the individual congressmen and or senators were looking for. Like, when I was in Michigan, we knew that our congressperson, was only looking for certain type of projects. If it had anything to do with stormwater, we were golden, and we actually got money through that. With the senators, it had to be, I can't remember, there was 3 or 4 priorities that they had, so it had to fit into one of those. So really, it depends a lot upon what it is the congressman, congressperson, senators are looking for. And you try to get an understanding of that before you put the projects together, because you want to be successful, right? So
Now-
we don't know what the deadline is. We know when it's opening up, which is very soon, but we don't know the deadline. And they have a webinar here. I want to say it's on Wednesday. Everything's happening on Wednesday for some reason. And that's when we'd find out exactly when the deadline would be.
Now, aside from the criterion that the individual members of Congress set forth, there's no quantitative metric like how many applications we can submit, correct?
I don't think I don't recall exactly if it says a number limit. Again, other places I've been, they usually cap it at a certain number, but I don't recall in what I sent out to you if it had that. or not.
What's going through my mind is, and I remember one of the first meetings we had when there was proposals for CIP on the state end, and the Councilor Hall had suggested Hazardville. I had no reservations about putting additional applications forward if it wouldn't inhibit our ability to receive money for another project. So I think it's not really a slice of the pie, respectfully. I don't view it as a pie and, well, we have money going to the police department. I don't really want to prioritize that project should go towards this, because it seems like if there's no cap on the amount of applications, that if it's something we could find as beneficial, it's not necessarily something we have to take out to put something else in if we think that that would be fruitful.
Right.
Is that my
Yeah,
understanding?
no, I think,
Okay.
again, I don't recall any anything that would limit the number of applications. And again, I want to say in the past, we probably submitted 3-4 projects each year.
And if we were to exceed beyond the applications that we're currently reviewing, if it's something within the wheelhouse of you and Aaron, you feel comfortable that staff could get that in by Friday?
I think there is, again, depending upon what it is you'd be asking. I mean, I think we'd have to talk about that and do it. I mean, I don't think I would be comfortable saying, hey, I just want to do engineering for sewer projects, because, I mean, I don't like it to have it open-ended like that. If it was, we're going to redo a particular lift station, that would be better in my mind. And understanding that a lot of these projects are going to then exceed the $2 million mark, and we would have to have the match for anything over that as well. And that's, kind of the difficulty as well.
Okay.
I mean, that's why, again, all these things, if we had the time, we could have this discussion, and we would be able to say, well, that's going to take a match. So are you prepared, if we do get this, to put a match for it?
Well,
I mean, there's a lot of variables, and we just...
And I'm incredibly appreciative of you bringing it forward, because I think, as you noted, the town of Enfield hasn't applied for these earmarks in any recent time, correct?
I don't believe they did last year. I think, again, the time frame was very short. And
That's understandable. Well, I'm glad we're having the conversation now. I think that's all that matters. Thank you, Madam Mayor. That's all I have.
Thank you. Thank you, Matt. I think it's great that we can hopefully discuss these at the end. I think it's unfortunate that we didn't get a lot of time to maybe come up with something else, but I'm on board with your suggestions as of right now. Okay, so number 10, Town Attorney Report.
Nothing to report.
Thank you. 11, Report of Special Committees, the council. Any committee, subcommittee reports? All right, moving on. Unfinished business number 12, there is none. Item 13, new business. Item 13A is the consent agenda. There are 2 items. One is the resolution for request of transfer for recreational program fees in the amount of $8,000, and the other one is the resolution to approve the submission of the trademark sublicense agreement to the Connecticut Semi-Quincentennial Commission. So if there are no discussions or issues, if I could get a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion.
Second.
And all in favor of approving the consent agenda? Lori, I can't see you, so I am going to assume you're a yes unless you tell me no. Thank you. All right, I heard you. Thank you. So that is 9 in favor, none against. All right, item 13B, appointments. One is the Charter Revision Commission. There's a vacancy that exists due to the resignation of Earl Provencher. The recommendation is Thomas Cremona.
So moved.
Second.
Move to close nominations.
Thank you.
Second.
Motion made and second to close nominations. Any discussion? All in favor of closing nominations? 9 in favor, none against. And any discussion on the replacement Thomas Cremona? Sensing none, all in favor? I think it is 9 in favor unless Lori tells me otherwise, none against. Congratulations, Tom. Welcome back. B2 is the Board of Assessment Appeals, is the term of the office of Daniel DeGray, expired on 12/31/2025, and this would be a reappointment. If I could get
So moved.
first and seconded. Can I get a motion to close nominations?
Motion to close nominations.
That
And a second.
motion is made and seconded. Any discussion on that? All in favor of closing nominations? 9 in favor, none against. And any discussion on Daniel DeGray's reappointment? Sensing none, all in favor with a raise of hands? It is 9 in favor, none against. Item 13C, resolution to transfer funds to replenish the Department of Public Works Highway Division operating accounts and purchase roadway salt in the amount of $199,000. The recommendation is that we approve it. Be it resolved that in accordance with, why do I do that? Accordance with Chapter 6, Section 8F of the Town Charter, the following transfer is hereby made from general fund revenue, the appropriated fund balance of $199,000 to DPW highway maintenance and building supplies in the amount of $199,000. Date prepared 2/19/2026 by Donald Nunes, Director of Public Works.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. First and second. Matt, I don't know if you had anything. I know, Donald, you're here. Basically, we're out of salt. We had a couple of big storms. You guys have done, like Councilor Crissati said, amazing work. So please extend our thank you to all of your employees down at DPW and Highway. So.
All right, well, good evening, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, and Councilors. Donald Nunes, Director of Public Works. So today I'm going to give a brief presentation about where we're at right now. We've had a total of 18 events since December 2nd, and right now we have 52.75 inches of snow recorded. So that picture on the left is the police station, by the way, at 1:36 in the morning on Monday of the big storm. So I thought it was very nice and very, very scenic. It's a beautiful picture. So this next slide I'm going to show you is very telling on where we're at. So I went back 10 years and talked and listed the events, the amount of snow, how much salt we used, how much per ton we used, what our contractor costs were, and our total cost. So the last time we saw any real snow was in the 16, 17, and 17, 18 range for 56 inches, and we're still not done with March yet. So there is some opportunity to get some more snow, but again, this is a kind of an anomaly in the last 10 years that has only happened like once in the last 10 years. And we've got lucky, like the 23-24 season, we had 22 inches and our costs were really low. We switched salt vendors in 18, that's why the cost went down, and now it's creeping back up again to $80.34. But again, we haven't seen a typical New England winter like this in nearly 10 years. So I think that's some of the people are we've been lulled into that nice sense of it isn't really that bad until we have a typical winter like we're having this year. So this was the picture of the salt shed as of Thursday. Those two piles that you see in the very back, that's all the salt we have. There's some sand on the left, which we mixed because we started rationing and cutting sand. Cutting some salt into the sand just because of the cold temperatures, but again, we were just rationing because we still cannot find salt anywhere until we did on Thursday morning. So again, the building, by the way, is 120 feet long and 50 feet wide, and this is only the last maybe 15 feet of the shed that actually has some salt in it. So we are really low. So we have made 3 internal transfers from ground services, disposal, maintenance of buildings, and gasoline. Basically taking, because we're at 6 months, so we have 6 months of fuel left. So we took a whole bunch of money out of there to help pay for salt. That's all we keep doing is doing that over and over, and it also reduced the other costs, other POs and other liquidated a whole bunch to get another 51,000. So to replenish those accounts, that's what we're looking for, the 199,000. Some of the things that we took from was we got rid of all the line striping, we got rid of the disposal of the street sweepings and all those other parts that happen in the spring because we're in the middle of a typical New England winter. So that's where these funds came from. So that's where we are with that. So, yes, he did say another 6 more weeks. So, but I do have some more slides after this. So,
Okay.
but if you have any questions about the,
And you stay here because you're on our next one as well, just in case anybody has
that's
questions.
correct. I have some information with that I'd like
Okay.
to share with council. That'd be fine.
Any questions on this, either for Matt or Donald? Any discussion? All right, sensing none, roll call, please, Sheila.
Deputy Mayor Santinella,
4.
Councilor Ungary,
4.
Councilor Zanoni,
4.
Mayor Sakala,
4.
Counselor Crisati.
4.
Counselor Hall.
4.
Counselor Mangini.
4.
Counselor Matthews.
4.
And Counselor Pisner.
4.
9 members in favor, none against.
Item 13D, resolution regarding a bid waiver for the purchase of roadway salt. Whereas the DPW respectfully requests a bid waiver for the purchase of roadway salt due to a regional shortage in Connecticut. Whereas the DPW only has 180 tons of salt available in the shed. Whereas the DPW has found a vendor in Providence, Rhode Island for $75 a ton. And whereas the DPW will only need an additional 200 tons from this vendor and will be capped at this amount. Be it resolved that the Enfield Town Council does hereby find, based on the foregoing compelling public interest and in accordance with Chapter 5, Section 8D of the Enfield Town Charter, that it is against the best interest of the town to solicit a competitive bidding for the purchase of 200 tons of roadway salt. Date prepared 2/26/2026 by Donald Nunes, Director of Public Works.
So moved.
And
Second.
second.
Thank you. You have something on this one? Take
Yes,
it
I do.
away.
So we placed a 600-ton order on February 11th with our vendor, and there's no delivery date in sight whatsoever. They have product on the ground, but that goes to the Massachusetts and ConDOT. ConDOT, we have reached out, and they cannot provide us with any of their salt. We know that they have in excess of, right now, 6,700 tons, but they cannot give that up to local municipalities. So on Thursday, shout out to my admin, Joanne, for calling a whole bunch of places, and she found one in Providence, Rhode Island. It's right on the water. The thing in the background, this clamshell, which basically opens up, goes into the actual barge, because the barge is right here, picks it up and it dumps it on the ground. So that machine is actually bigger than that clamshell is actually bigger than our biggest loader that we have. That's how big of an operation this is. So we were able to pick up 187 tons. We sent 4 trucks down there. They did 2 rounds and they came back, and we were good for that. So what I'm asking for is just another, because right now I'm up to $14,214, and according to our procurement requirements, I cannot exceed $15,000 without either buying it off a consortium contract or going out to bid or a bid waiver. They are not on any contracts that we can use right now, but they will provide us, again, with another 200 tons if we get the bid waiver approval. We're going to reduce our PO from our vendor and give it and switch it over to this vendor so we can get another 200, then we'll be done for the rest of the season with salt. So just again, the massive scale of the operation, that is our 30-yard roll-off container with our truck, and that, again, that bucket loader, just a little stuff, that's about as big as that thing. It only takes just over a scoop and a half to go fill those up. So if you have any questions for Mr.
Okay, so we're reducing the 600-ton order. That's ridiculous. So we're going to reduce the 600-ton order that we've already placed by 200.
By 200, correct.
And then do the 200 for this
Correct.
specific place.
Right, so we're still going to need 6, then we got to work out the whole end of the season stuff going into the new year through our budget and stuff, so.
Okay. Any additional questions? Councilor Mangini?
Thank you, Donald. Doing a great job out there. Is there a charge for us to pay for pickup? You said we have to go pick up.
Yes,
Is there an additional charge?
They're charging us $76 for the product, so we're paying staff to drive down there with town vehicles and town fuel. That's what we're paying.
Is that money included in the budget, or is that extra?
We're just eating the cost of that out of our line, out of our budget for salaries. They will not. That company will not deliver to Connecticut. They're only but we can go pick it up.
We have to go get it.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
Any additional questions? All right. Sensing none, roll call, please. Thank you, Donald.
Yep.
Deputy Mayor Santinella.
4.
Counselor Ungary.
4.
Counselor Zanoni.
4.
Mayor Sakala.
4.
Counselor Crisati.
4.
Counselor Hall.
4.
Counselor Mangini.
4.
Counselor Matthews.
4.
And Counselor Pisner.
4.
That's 9 in favor, none against.
Thank you.
Thank you, Donald. Item 13E, resolution to request transfer of funds from the senior center miscellaneous contributions to other supplies in the amount of $5,000. Be it resolved that in accordance with Chapter 6, Section 8F of the Town Charter, the following transfer is hereby made from senior center miscellaneous contributions in the amount of $5,000 to other supplies in the amount of $5,000. Date prepared 2/18/2026 by Jason Neely, the library director.
So moved.
First and seconded. And this is a donation by Colleen Keaton in the honor of her mother, Pat Dennis. And that is a donation, so we thank them. I don't know, Jason, I don't know if you have any additional information or anything you would like to add.
So like you said, it's a donation from Colleen Keating in honor of her mother. She donated some funds 10 years ago, and that is what we used to put in the garden right in front of the sidewalk leading up to the center seat.
Wonderful. Love it. Any questions, comments? All right, well, please extend our thank you again. Sensing none, roll call, please.
Deputy Mayor Santinella,
4.
Counselor Ungary,
4.
Counselor Zanoni,
4.
Mayor Sakala,
4.
Counselor Crisati,
4.
Counselor Hall,
4.
Counselor Mangini,
4.
Counselor Matthews,
4.
and Counselor Pisner.
4.
That's 9 in favor, none against.
Thank you, Jason. Item 13F, resolution to approve the Senior Center Cafe Coordinator job description. Be it resolved that in accordance with Chapter 7, Section 2 of the Enfield Town Charter, the Enfield Town Council does hereby adopt the job description for the Senior Center Cafe Coordinator at $19 an hour and the associated transfer of funds. Date prepared 2/19/2026 by Jason Neely, Library Director.
So moved.
First and
Second.
seconded. Jason, anything else from you or anything on this one?
Not really. About a year and a half ago, CRT indicated that they did not want to pay for the position anymore. For the past year and a half, we have been paying them as a contractor to come in and provide the service. When the current person put in their letter of resignation, they said they didn't want to do the hiring anymore. So we're going to adopt that. We were paying a premium to CRT for that, so it will come in at about a $1,300 savings to the town. But we'll take ownership of the hiring process.
And this will be a part-time employee?
Yes.
All right. So we'll hire our own instead of going through CRT?
Exactly.
All right. Any additional comments, questions? Thank you very much for this. Roll call, please.
Deputy Mayor Santinella,
4.
Counselor Ungary,
4.
Counselor Zanoni,
4.
Mayor Sakala,
4.
Counselor Crisati,
4.
Counselor Hall,
4.
Counselor Mangini,
4.
Counselor Matthews,
4.
and Counselor Pisner.
4.
That's 9 in favor, none against.
Thank you, Jason. Item G, resolution setting a public hearing for Midtown Enfield Tax Increment Financing Master Plan Revision. Be it resolved that the Enfield Town Council will hold a public hearing in the Enfield Town Hall Council Chambers, 820 Enfield Street, Enfield, Connecticut, on Monday, March 16th, 2026, at 6:55 to allow interested citizens an opportunity to express their opinion regarding the proposed revisions to the Midtown Enfield Tax Increment Financing Master Plan, date prepared 2/11/2026 by the Economic Community Development.
So moved.
First and seconded. Matt, before I throw this over to you, I think my one comment, and I apologize because I just picked up on this, because if for some reason we don't end up having the 16th meeting, should we make a friendly amendment, and is it even allowable to put in there at our next town council meeting instead of a date? I'm not saying that we won't have the 16th. Sheila's telling me, no, I'm not allowed to do that.
It has to go in the newspaper the way it passed.
Okay. Well, right. So there has to be a date in it in order for it to go. Okay.
Yes.
All right, then, if nothing else, as long as we have a quorum, we'll do that.
I mean, if you're concerned about that, we can put it for the next meeting. We can amend that to have it for the next meeting, and then we'll be definite that we'll have that meeting.
Right. Is this time sensitive that we would need to do it for the 16th?
I don't think there's any time sensitivity to this.
Okay. And the only reason I'm saying is I'm not saying that we won't have that meeting on the 16th, but if there are several counselors that are going to be away, we really just need to count to make sure we would have a quorum.
I mean, I think not knowing, I think it would be better to change that to the date that we have a better certainty of having it.
And that would be, is that April?
Be the first meeting in
6th.
April.
We will be, but not positive what time though, right? So, okay, so Matt, do you want to do your overview and then I will ask for a friendly amendment if people are on board? Or do you want me to
We're
do
just
that now?
making sure that we have a meeting that date.
The 6th, April 6th? Oh, it's the Monday after the holiday. We may not have it. I'll check the schedule. Okay, so while you're checking that, Matt, why don't you give us an overview on this one?
Yes. So during a TIF advisory committee meeting, a question came up regarding if the town had a property that it bought using TIF money, or another scenario might be, let's say we bought a piece of property with TIF funds and then we decided to lease that out. Where did that money go? We weren't sure. We went back and we speculated that it most likely would go to the general fund. And in looking at all the different pieces of this puzzle, that's pretty much accurate, unless the town changes the TIF plan that allows for the money to stay with the TIF. And I think there's a good rational reason to use the TIF money in that way. So if you acquire a parcel of land and you sell it, keeping it with that, because the taxpayers that paid for that were in the TIF district. And so therefore you'd be keeping that investment that came from the TIF district in the TIF district to improve the TIF district. And I think it just makes it a really clean thought process when we're explaining what we're doing. One, from the resident standpoint, we didn't buy this piece of property. We didn't, do this improvement with tax dollars from another part of the town. It's from the increase in the values in that TIF district. And so I think if you're making that argument to them, then I think to the TIF district, you have to say, well, this was your money that paid for this, so we're going to keep that money that was invested from your reinvestment in the TIF district. Now, in the end, town council approves everything that the TIF district recommends. So therefore, you could say that, well, you're just taking money, in one area and putting it in another, but it's still the same money because council approves it. But again, I think I go back to what I just said. It, I think, is a cleaner way to go about that, because you can logically argue that the money, was made in the TIF district, so it should stay with the TIF district.
Okay. So just because I think it's helpful, there's a couple of bullet points that I'll just read really quickly because I think it does a good job of explaining on top of what you just said. Is that, so this master plan doesn't allow for the TIF district to acquire funds at this point, and then, so we have, if we're going to revise it, we have to go to public hearing, and what we're looking to revise is expressly allowing the sale of land or improvements acquired with the TIF funds, and then the proceeds of that sale is going to be put back in the TIF fund instead of in the general fund. So it'll just kind of go back into the same kitty.
Yep.
Okay. Any questions, comments, concerns for Matt? And again, we're only doing the public hearing right now, or we're only setting the public hearing.
Correct, but were you going to ask for an amendment?
Yes.
And it is April 7th.
April 7th, which is Tuesday. Okay, so can I get, if people are on board, because again, I don't think we made a final decision on that 16th council meeting, because I do worry that since a lot of people will be down in DC for the conference, that they're not going to be able to have that period of time to be on Zoom. And I know we have other people who are going to be away as well. So if I could get a friendly amendment on this to change Monday, March 16, 2026 to Tuesday, April 7th, 2026, everything else would stay the same.
Motion.
Second.
Do you want the specific language? The motion was made by Counselor Zanoni and seconded by Counselor Matthews.
No, I think it was
Pretty easy.
explanatory enough.
Okay. Any discussion on that amendment?
Second.
What was first and second? All right, so all in favor of the amendment, raise of hands. 9 in favor, none against of the amendment. Any additional questions or comments on the resolution as amended? All right, sensing none, roll call, please. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Santinella,
4.
Councilor Ungary,
4.
Councilor Zanoni,
4.
Mayor Sakala,
4.
Councilor Crisati,
4.
Councilor Hall,
4.
Councilor Mangini,
4.
Councilor Matthews,
4.
and Councilor Pisner.
4.
That's 9 in favor, none against.
Thank you, and I apologize for not talking to you about that ahead of time. I just didn't even pick up on it because I forgot that we had just discussed maybe not having that meeting. All right, 13H, resolution approving the language for the submission of the town-state legislative delegation regarding the state funding for school modernization. Whereas, to ensure the town is able to receive the maximum benefit of financial assistance from the state of Connecticut, the pre-referendum committee is recommending that the town submit language to the state legislature to be written into state legislation to preserve the town's ability to qualify for necessary incentives. And whereas the town seeks special legislation to, 1, approve the state standard space specification waivers for all 4 PK through 5 elementary schools in Eagle Academy due to the higher proportion of students requiring specialized education and the resulting need for additional support space. 2, to authorize the general construction reimbursement base rate in recognition that the new construction is more economical than the phased occupied renovation. 3, grant relief of the 2-year construction start requirement to accommodate the planned 2026 to 2023 phased implementation schedule. 4, confirm the 15% early childhood incentive reimbursement for the PK through 5 schools. 5, approve the 15% special education incentive reimbursement and renovation status for Eagle Academy Therapeutic Program to ensure reimbursement certainty and limit ineligible costs. And 6, incorporate the forthcoming housing incentive reimbursement proactively in anticipation of its applicability beginning on July 1st, 2026 or 2027 priority grant applications. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Enfield Town Council hereby approves the attached language for the submission of the town-state legislative delegation for inclusion in the appropriate legislation related to school funding, date prepared 2/27/2026 by Matt W. Koppler, the town manager.
So moved.
And second.
All right. Thank you very much for this, and thank you to the architects and Randy Daigle for getting us all of this language as well. Matt, if you want to do a quick
The only thing I'm
summary.
going to say is that on your desk, I gave you the hard copy of the language. I apologize for not getting it on Friday. It came. I did not see it until
Don't think it could be any smaller font.
town attorney told me about that. But real quick, this is language that the Modernization Committee, the PK5 Committee, felt is necessary to make sure that we are protected as we go into the application period coming up. Because there is a lot of timeframes that we're going to be ahead of and behind of, this protects our ability to get the maximum reimbursement allowable.
Yes, thank you. And so what we're doing is approving us giving this language or getting the state legislature the language to ask for this special legislation during this legislative session. So again, a lot of good work by the architects and Randy Daigle and the entire pre-referendum committee in trying to get us eligible for all of the most reimbursements and some waivers that we think that are going to make this project incredibly successful to be put on referendum. Any questions, comments? Councillor Hall.
Just a couple of quick comments. So John and I will work together along with Senator Kissel to, work on these waivers for the town. I think just so the general public knows, if we don't get the waivers, what the process is the building committee could go back and take a look at what they put together and revise their plans to downscale to fit into what the state wants to see as far as criteria goes on square footage sizes. Or they could move forward as it sits with the oversizing of the schools. And of course, our reimbursement would drop. So the building committee has a bunch of options. The town council ultimately has the final say in what happens. But this is more for the general public to understand what the process is. So the legislation that was passed with the additional 15% for the incentives, I don't think is going to be a problem at all for us because it's codified already. So we're gonna sail through that. It's just the extra square footage that's going to need the waiver, along with the additional funds from the housing bill that goes into effect July 1st. So we'll do our very best to get these done for you. I think I can speak for John and myself on this one. We're going to work our hardest. These are great projects, and we want to see the town get the most bang for their buck. So we'll do our due diligence, and that's really all I have.
Thank you very much. Any other comments? Councillor Zanoni?
Just a quick question, and maybe Councillor Hall or Deputy Mayor Santinella can answer it. So this language is adjusting the statute? Because it's changing, it's exempting it, correct?
John, do you want me to answer? It's up to you.
Go ahead. I think, so what it does is there's a certain, so the space waiver, the reimbursements generally apply to a certain square footage. And our buildings are larger than what the standard space waiver is. So we're asking for the reimbursement rate to apply to the construction for the entire building, not just the amount that is normally allotted. In the housing bill, so in the housing bill, the housing bill takes effect July 1st, and in the housing bill, there is an additional 5% allotment for towns with a transit-oriented district to receive an additional 5% reimbursement for school construction. These, the application deadlines here and the grants that we're applying for here have a deadline of June 30th of this year. So we're basically missing the 5% by one day. And I've had a conversation with the governor's office about that. And with our colleagues on the education committee, so they understand clearly why we're asking for that. Because if these grants were expiring July 15th, we would be able to get all of them. But we're literally missing that by one day. So we're asking for certain exceptions, and this is normal. We're not asking for something that other cities and towns don't ask for. in the normal course of school construction. Enfield's not, we're not out here asking for the world. We're asking for something that has been done many times over, and I think it just becomes a question of how many school applications do they have, and what funds are available, and those kinds of things. Do you have anything to add? I'm not sure.
Just in regards to the overage for the square footage, we've never asked for waivers on square footage overages, and the building committee meeting that I did attend, Chairman Daigle had stated that they were really looking at out projections for school population, and that's why they kind of bumped out the square footage a little bit. It actually wasn't based on the actual population of the students we have right now. It was more of a forward-looking kind of square footage, and that's where the waiver is going to come in, because the building is larger than what we would typically ask for. So this is the first waiver we've done on basic size. The new bill that passed, it is a deadline thing. So to lock in the percentage that we're getting towards this project, we've got to get it in by the end of the fiscal year. So that's why July 30th and not June 30th, not July, So that additional, I don't think is going to be a problem. Like the deputy mayor said, I think that extra 5% should be granted. My only concern is the square footage waiver. That's going to be a little challenging.
So I guess my final question, and I apologize because I'm just getting familiar with the process of it, is these waivers, who's the authoritative body to, who approves it?
DAS.
Okay, so it's through the executive, so through the governor's office. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And I will say that I believe, and Bob, you can correct me if I'm wrong, I thought in some of the discussions for the pre-ref committee, the architectural company that we're using has actually worked with state legislature, state representatives, some other of their projects for these specific types of waivers, including space waivers. And I think and I'm not, this isn't to say that everything will be granted, but I think they've had some success with their space waivers. I don't know, Bob, if you had anything.
I think they've been very successful in getting their space waiver. And one thing that we really have to remember is, because there's a higher number of students requiring specialized education now, and the additional space that's needed within the special education, that is probably the driving force behind this additional square footage. So that's an important point. But they have had good success, in getting these space waivers, and everything that they pointed out here in these 6 specifics for, you guys are going to work hard to get this. Pressure's on. So you're well prepared to move forward on this. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah.
I think it's an advantage to the fact that we have 2 state reps right now on the council that can help us advocate, because you guys are on the front lines of this as well. So any additional questions, comments? Sensing none, roll call, please.
Deputy Mayor Santinella,
4.
Councilor Ungary,
4.
Councilor Zanoni,
4.
Mayor Sakala,
4.
Councilor Crisati,
4.
Councilor Hall,
4.
Councilor Mangini,
4.
Councilor Matthews,
4.
Councilor Pisner.
4.
9 members in favor, none against.
Thank you. Item 14, items for discussion, there is none. 15, other, yeah.
Discuss our next meeting date,
I don't think that,
the 16th.
right, I think, actually, that's a good question. So for items for discussion, Deputy Mayor just asked, if we're not going to have a meeting on the 16th, when and if do we need to cancel it? What do we need to do? Like, we don't need to make a motion to do it today, right? We can just cancel it and at some point doesn't need council action. So we don't have to act on that
That's
tonight.
correct.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
Is that good? Okay.
Just wanted to make sure.
Yep. So 15, any other business proper to come before said meeting. I would like to, if I could get a motion to add, this would be, would we say, is it just 15A? Or we'll just do, if I can get a motion to add the resolution authorizing the town manager to submit applications for community project funding for federal fiscal year 2027.
So moved.
Second.
All right, first and seconded. Do we have discussion on this? We need to have, I believe, a majority, I don't know if it's 8, 7? No.
It's six,
6?
because it's a
6, because there's 9 of us?
counselors present and
Okay.
voting. Yeah.
So can I, for a show of hands, we don't need to, is there any discussion on this before we try to add it to the agenda? Okay, so by a show of hands, all in favor to add this to the agenda? Okay, so it looks like 9 in favor. Thank you very much. So I will read the resolution, and then we can have some discussion on it. So again, it's a resolution authorizing the town manager to submit applications for community project funding for federal fiscal year 2027. Whereas the United States House of Representatives makes community project funding, CPF, opportunities available annually for municipalities to seek federal assistance for local capital, infrastructure, and community serving initiatives. And whereas Congressman Joe Courtney, representing Connecticut's 2nd Congressional District, participates in the CPF process and invites eligible municipalities to submit proper project applications for consideration. And whereas the town of Enfield seeks to position itself to apply for and secure federal funding that supports priority community needs and projects, now therefore be it resolved that the Enfield Town Council hereby authorizes the town manager to submit application to Congressman Joe Courtney for community project funding for federal fiscal year 2027, including 1, a request for $2 million to fund the design development of plans for an expansion of the existing Enfield Police Station and for the addition of emergency medical services space, including design, environmental review, public engagement, and coordination with appropriate agencies. And 2, a request for $2 million to fund the design development of plans for a new pier and overlook to the Connecticut River to be constructed utilizing the existing pilings from the former bridge, including design, environmental review, public engagement, and coordination with the appropriate agencies. Date prepared March 2nd, 2026.
So moved.
All right, first and seconded. So, I know we talked about this in Matt's town manager report, so additional discussion items. I will say, again, it's a little unfortunate that we didn't have more time to really discuss these. It is fortunate, though, that we are going to have the opportunity to have more chances for applying for some other applications from some other sources for state and federal funding, which would be great. So, any discussion on this? Sure. Counselor Zanoni, and then we can go to you, Counselor Hall.
My only, I'm happy to support the resolution as written, but if there was interest, I know that Aaron had talked about getting some work done with the streetscaping on North Main Street, and I think that really should be a priority, and if that's something that they could do relatively quickly and there was interest in that, I would like to see it added, not necessarily anything taken away, but to add that.
So that was another earmark at some point in the past. We actually have $1 million for
I thought
that
we were
work.
using some of
did
the
it- we did-
Franklin Street.
No,
in-
so that's a different project. That's Lot Zip. But we did receive $1 million from Congressman Courtney. I'm not sure exactly what year it was, but it had to be within the last 5 years, I think. Yeah, so it was a few years ago.
I think it was in 2023.
And so we're actually
2022.
going out. I believe we've already submitted the RFP for that project to get the design engineering piece done. So granted, we're probably not going to be putting $1 million into streetscape, but we're going to be doing some of that $1 million will be paying for the engineering that needs to be done to be able to go out to bid. So you could add additional to that. Again, I think it would fit. I can't remember the exact department, probably economic development, EDI, I think is in there. So there may be an opportunity for that if you wanted to do it.
Anything else?
No,
Councilor Zona?
I mean, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I would agree. I understand your perspective. I would like to put additional grant opportunities for that if there was interest in that, that's all.
For this?
Yes. And it's, I think, as Matt already alluded, it's something we're already working on and already have some money going towards, so I don't think there would be harm in it.
Do we need to limit it to 2? Or,
I think 3 to 4
okay.
would be doable. I mean, again, our limitation is just the staff time to put it together, right? Because that's
Understood. Right, you have
the
a
time
couple
frame. I
of
mean,
days. Yep.
What you have in front of you was a day's work, but we're not done. We
Right.
have to go back through it. I haven't, to be honest, haven't even read through it. So
Okay.
there's still more work to be done with that.
And to that point, and I know that I had referenced it earlier, I would only want it if you felt it was something that you were capable of doing in time. I don't want you to feel time crunch for it. And given a few years ago we had applied for that $1 million, would we be able to mimic some of that language to save on time?
Yeah, no, again, I don't, Aaron does a great job, and I don't want to minimize the hard work that he puts into it. So Aaron, please don't be upset with me. I mean, it's doable to put these together fairly quickly. The thing is, fairly quickly, does that necessarily lead to success is the only issue. But I think, again, that could be something we could do because we'd just be adding on to the work that we've already done. I mean, hopefully, by the time we would get announced that this is done, we're probably going out to bid for that project.
For the initial work?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you want to hold that thought?
Yep.
Okay, and then we go to Carol, and then John, and then you, Maya. Counselor Hall.
So I was kind of going the direction Counselor Zanoni was going with adding other projects. So I kind of think that we have a lot of shovel-ready things that are sitting there that we could throw in. And I think you probably can think, you said you had like 10 that you were discussing. The only problem I have with the police station is the funding piece of it. We're spending $2 million of taxpayers' money. It's still our money that's coming from the federal government. If you could tell me how we're going to build the building, I would be really happy about it. So I'm not a no, but I'm like nervous about spending $2 million and not having a plan. I like plans. So that's my real reluctance here with that particular project. I love the pier idea. I think it's a great idea, but I think there's probably parking lots, and I don't know if we can use this to do parking lots. I know there's sewer issues, and I know we do know what lines need to be addressed. So, I mean, those all have to be designed. That has to be, those are big dollars to do the design work on those things. So I think the more we ask for, and I know there's the senators' projects are coming down the pike, which we could probably take a little more time with and getting those together, but I think we could add more projects. The more the better. I think it's like CIF at the state. The more you throw in, the more chances you have of getting something. So, I mean, the other project, again, you people are going to hate me bringing it up again, but we have the Institute parking lot that needs to be done. We could finish the Institute with $2 million. So that's just one right off the top of my head. So, I mean, there are other projects. I am gonna reluctantly vote yes on this, the way you've submitted it, Matt, but I really would like to see other things thrown in because I just don't have a high level of confidence in the funding for the police station, so.
I wish I could say that there is a magical pot of money that automatically comes forward with that.
I
guess
know.
this is, to me, it's a realization of the hard work it's going to take to get there.
Yep.
And if I can get someone else to pay for a portion of it, then that's money I don't have to come up with.
Agreed, and that's one of the pieces that's getting me there.
Yeah.
So I'd love to see a couple other things thrown on this, like Councilor Zanoni suggested.
I wouldn't, so first off, I want money. I don't care which projects it is, so let me just say that off the top. I think we could, with Councilman Zanoni's, we could do that. We could put in for, I'd probably go for line work for our sanitary system because, I know I can justify a lot of line replacement or lining.
Yep.
And $2 million would get
Some done.
it wouldn't get as much as we'd hope, but it would get a lot. It'd get a lot done.
Yep.
And that's really kind of a ambiguous, generalized thing that we could put together really quick. So I mean, we could add that as well.
Okay.
So I have no problems with that whatsoever.
All right. Thank you. Thank you.
So, Councilor Hall, I wrote down line work and replacement. Did you have another one you want to sort of just add to the list and then we can kind of go through? Or was that good?
Well, the Institute.
Institute?
Yep.
Okay. And then we can kind of discuss the additions from after everyone else is done.
And let me just say real quick, I think there are a couple paths for the Institute in there. Probably not great ones, but I think there are a couple paths for it. So it wouldn't necessarily not be possible. It's just, I don't know if we fit cleanly in those agencies that where the money would be.
For this one,
Yeah.
you mean? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But again, I think it's possible.
Right.
Because
Okay.
again, who would have thought that, a couple fishermen going to a congressman back in 1996 would have gotten $3 million to put a tunnel under a railroad track. But it happened.
I was there then, I remember.
And unfortunately, you can't tunnel underneath Amtrak. But who would have thought?
Deputy Mayor Santinella and then Councilman Matthews.
So thank you. So I'm going to speak out in complete favor for the police station piece of this. I understand this is a small part of this, but we met as a group, and among the priorities that we called out was that we need to do something about the police station and EMS. And we have an opportunity to move the needle a little bit, and we don't know what's going to happen a year from now or 5 years from now, what kinds of monies might become available. I think anything that moves the ball ahead a little bit just helps us. And if, it may be that it's all incumbent upon us to come up with the money, but something could transpire where we have an opportunity to get the money and to have plans done that we can then share with somebody, I think just puts us in a real strong space. And not just, we as a whole group talked about this, and this was one of the top three things, the police station, and more importantly, the EMS facility that we need to desperately do something about. If we can add more things, my question for you is, how specific do these applications need to be? Like item number 2 is very specific about the pier, but can it be a more general application? We have this TIF district, and Councilor Zanoni is suggesting enhancements to streetscapes, and this is an enhancement to the TIF district as written in sort of a broader sense. Can item 2 be written as $2 million to be used as enhancements, public enhancements in the TIF district that might include a pier and streetscapes, so that we have some options in the way that we use those funds? Or does the application require it to be that specific, that you have a specific project? Or is a general neighborhood enhancement specific enough?
So the art of this is that you need to write it general enough that if it changes even a little bit, you don't have to go back for reauthorization.
Yeah.
Because that's the danger with these earmarks is once Congress says that's how the money's to be spent, think about train station and bus station.
Yeah.
It mistakenly got put in the bus funding. And so as we were working through the train station project, we weren't allowed to talk about trains.
Yep.
So it does have to be specific in a general way, but generalized enough that you don't have to, you can change a little bit without having to go back. So I would be a little bit more specific on, which portion of the Thompsonville area we'd be doing any work.
Yep.
But I think we can keep it, again, the art is how to write it general enough that, if we decide that we need to move over here with that, we can do that.
Right. So I think that kind of addresses a little bit of both of our concerns about, could we write a couple of these so that we have some flexibility that meets multiple purposes? If that's possible, I would be in favor of doing that, adding that to this. But I honestly understand there's a lot of work every time you add something to this list, and I don't know that we're gonna have time to do 7 of these effectively. So,
like I said, I think,
thank you.
3 or 4, 2 more onto this are doable. Taking 1 off and just doing 2, that's doable. I think once we get beyond 2 more at this point in the date, it just, I know my review time is a lot less today than it was, or now than it was earlier today, for the rest of the week. So, and again, it's going to take a day and a half for Aaron to finish these up and get them back to me, and we go through it all. So then we have to submit it.
Thank you. Councilor Matthews?
So I'm going to expand a little bit on what the town manager said and echo what Deputy Mayor, what's your name? John. Thanks. Deputy Mayor said as well. So I know that the email with the attachment with what Congressman Courtney is actually asking for in this funding came late. It came at 5:01 today. But I would implore everybody up on the dais to read that, because it tells you what can be funded through this. And I was just kind of skimming through while everybody was talking. And right there on page 14, it tells you athletic fields, parks are not eligible. So if you can just kind of look through a little bit and see what they're prioritizing here. Page 6, health and safety, full stop. That's what they're prioritizing for this right here. So that's why the police and EMS project is the one that I'm going to personally say is probably going to be the one that's going to be closest to being funded. Also, I'm going to champion for that because I know how dire it is for EMS to get their facility upgraded. That is a huge priority for the town and one that I definitely want to champion during the budget season. I do also see that on multiple pages here, they're prioritizing wastewater projects. It's too bad that we don't have more time, because we could have used that $2 million to kind of help out with the infrastructure for that, or at least start getting things going. But I know it's only $2 million. I know it's not going to fund the entire building of getting the PD or EMS done. But like John said, we've got to get started. At least we can get some plans in place with that $2 million to get a little bit farther with EMS. So everybody definitely just take a read at the attachment that we got earlier, and that will help with the back and forth tomorrow.
Thank you very
That's all.
much. Thank you. Counselor Mangini?
Thank you. Thank you, Matt, for putting this together and taking all the time with the hard work. I, too, would definitely support the public safety complex. The EMS situation is abhorrent. It's just absolutely disgraceful. And we're very fortunate that the workers there are doing their job and not complaining, so, openly. So I definitely, would support any funding we can get to address that. My question, though, why $2 million? Could we ask for more for that project than the $2 million?
It's their limit. Yeah, that's their cap.
It's the cap per project.
Yeah, now I don't know if
Okay.
that's the same cap that we'll see with the senators, but for Congressman Courtney, it's $2 million.
If we can maybe get a little bit creative, I don't know, maybe break apart PD and EMS and maybe see if we can get a little bit more funding for both facilities, that would be ideal, because then you'd be able to address the whole situation.
Yeah, so again, we kind of thought about doing that, but we're going to be crossing the bridge that to do any work, we're going to have to do the soft cost things. And so $2 million for an EMS building that we're probably looking at somewhere north of $5 million potentially for, then, I think it doesn't get us as far as actually having the plans. And again, I just think it's better to try to get these together, get the architectural and the engineering pieces figured out so we have projects. And again, I know that there isn't a clear path for funding today, and I understand that issue, but there has been so many things in my career. It's like, we'll never see that, right? I want to think that, we had a project that was dead in the water when I got here back in 2006. And I remember meeting with CROG and DOT, and they said, we're going to pull the funding. That funding was for Post Office Road. And we just been not doing the things we need to do, and they were getting ready to pull it. We did everything we could to get them back on board, got it straightened away, and we did kind of go into a little bit of a recession, you might recall, in 2008, 2009. But what came out of that was a lot of money. And because we had done all that work in preparation, there were projects that couldn't meet the deadlines, and so we got bumped to the top. And I think our share was going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of $3 or $4 million, if I'm not mistaken. We didn't pay anything. So, I understand that it's hard to see it now, but being prepared sometimes pays off. And so I think that's what I'm hoping here. And I know hope is not, and I'll be the first one, hope is not a strategy. But I think we have to move ourselves to get into a position that either we need to make that case to our residents and we have to figure out locally how to pay for it, or we create a project that is ready for funding when funding becomes available.
Thank you.
All right. All set, Counselor Mangini? Okay. Counselor Pisner, Ungary, did you have anything to add? Okay, I just didn't want to forget you. Counselor Crissati, did?
Yeah, the only thing that I'm just going to mention, we're dealing with time. Time is of the major essence at this point in time, and what you presented to us in the two particular projects, and I know, based on what you just stated, that you still have work to do on these final applications, and then for us to come and ask you at this, last moment to put in a couple of more applications, whether it's the line work or whether it's additional streetscaping or altering proposal number 2, I myself would be supportive of the 2 ones that you did with additional work to be put towards that application. And sometimes I say that if you ask for, 4 or 5 different type projects, they're going to look and say, which one is really your priority? And you have 2 priority items right here. Number 1, with the police and the EMS, that one there is, something that I would support wholeheartedly. And even with number 2, with all the other work that's happening down in the Thompsonville area, I think this would be a nice project also. So I'm in favor of just these 2 without adding anything more to your plate so that these applications can be done to a T and be ready for Friday. That's my opinion.
Thank you. I guess for me, what I would say is, given what Councilor Matthews sort of read, and I appreciate that because, again, most of us didn't have time to read it because it came in so late. I appreciate your hard work, Matt, and if safety and, even public safety and even some of the sewer stuff is prioritized, I would be in favor, because I don't want to do too much, and I know you said maybe 3 or 4, I would be in favor of adding sort of the line work replacement piece as a third possibility and doing those 3. I'm not opposed to other suggestions, I want to say that, but I think given the time frame that we're working with and the priorities that seem to just be on this specific one, I think that maybe we can have some other priorities with the other grants that are going to come down later, that I would be in favor of adding a third one. And I don't know if we get to that point, if we can just say line work and replacement, and then you guys can come up with a specific language, and we could just amend this resolution to add a number 3. That's what I would suggest. I think doing 4 or 5, I don't think is a good use of anybody's time at this late hour specifically. So my suggestion would be adding a third one for the line replacement and work. So just we have that, the sewer piece, we have a public safety piece, and then we have, that peer community piece. And I think that's a nice sprinkling of options. So that's me. Councilor Zanoni.
Thank you. So on page 26 for the Subcommittee on Transportation, Housing, and Urban Development, it does list streetscaping under the projects that would be eligible. There's 26 pages, and each individual subcommittee probably has about 10, 15 things that it'll support. So there's that. One thing I did notice, and I'm forgetting what page it's on, which makes my question about the line work, is that they would not fund things that are considered ongoing maintenance. So if it's considered would that be considered our ongoing maintenance of our infrastructure?
Yeah, I mean,
It's a capital improvement. It's not ongoing.
I bet you could word it that it wouldn't be ongoing maintenance and that it would be a one-time replacement, right?
I think just from the scope or the cost alone, you're going to be beyond what maintenance would be. And again, the art in these is wording things in a way that make it qualify. And I'll say, in the short time that I've been here, Aaron has a way of writing these that work. So
Right.
I think we can do that. And to be honest, I think we have probably, as much as I would love to be able to do a lot of lining, our issue is the type of pipes we have, you can't line. I mean, I think Donald may have showed you the asbestos concrete, that the concrete was gone and the asbestos was always there. Can't line that. That has to be cut out and replaced. So most likely, most of that work is going to be replacement, not lining anyway. So that's definitely not maintenance.
Well, I am open to supporting what everyone else decides upon, though I would note on the 26th. One thing I think is important for the future ones, and I don't know if it remains consistent, is it notes in the application process the addition of community support. And I think one thing we could do in the future is talk to community groups and try to get resident voices involved in submittal as part of a portfolio for the application. I think that could strengthen it. Yeah, when we have more time for the future, that could be something that could be beneficial.
So here would be, anything else? No. Here's my suggestion. So we have the resolution as written. We have what I wrote down as 3 additional suggestions. If anybody who's made those suggestions wants to make an amendment, why don't we do them one at a time? We'll see if it passes. And my suggestion is we 3, cap it at 4. I don't even know that I would suggest 4, given only 3 days to do this. So there was the North Main Streetscape, the line work / replacement, and then the Hazardville Institute parking lot. So I think you had the 2 and then you had the 1. So if either of you want to make an amendment one at a time, then we can just quickly make the amendment, see if it passes, and move on. Or, so that's, go ahead.
Do we have to say if possible or something like that? Put some language in? No?
I'm gonna
Just in case they don't get to 4?
Let
I mean,
them
if you-
deal with that language.
When I collapse over here, don't put any more on there.
Yeah, I would really like to cap this at 1 additional one, but again, I'm one of 9 that are here tonight. So I'll go to Zach first, Counselor Zanoni first, because he had the first suggestion, and then we'll go to you and you do your 2. And if you want to make the amendment, you'll need a second and see if we can
Sure.
get it as amended.
This is very exciting.
Right ahead.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to put forward an amendment to make an addition to the resolution to add under a third for a request for $2 million to fund the design development for plans for the North Main Street streetscape to be constructed to also include design, environmental review, public engagement, and coordination with the appropriate agencies.
So
Second.
before I would actually include construction in that.
Okay.
I would go.
Did I say? I thought I did say construction.
Did you? I didn't hear it.
All right, I'll rephrase it.
So,
So would I withdraw?
No, just
Yeah.
and
So a request for $2 million to fund the design, development, and plans for the North Main Street streetscape, including construction, environmental review, public engagement, and coordination with the appropriate agencies.
Okay, so we have a first and a second. Okay, so I don't know that we need to have additional discussion on it. I will preface this, but I'm not against any of these 3, but I think that we need to sort of prioritize 1 to 2. So, all in favor of the amendment? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Lori?
Yes.
Okay, so 7. So that amendment passes. So the streetscape will be number 3. Okay?
And who was not in favor?
I'm sorry. That was 8 in favor, 1 against. I was against.
Oh, I'm against.
Oh, I'm sorry, 2 against, 7, because I can't count. 7 in favor, 2 against. Were Counselor Mangini and myself. And that is not because I don't want streetscapes, just priorities. All right, Counselor Hall, your amendments.
So I'm going to wait on the Institute, and hopefully we can add that to the senators' applications that are coming up. And when I was scanning, I scanned the 26 pages when Matt sent them to me. Part of them, the historic pieces, were exceptions. So I think we may have a better shot on the next applications for the senators. So I would just amend the resolution to include, I don't know how you want it worded, Matt. Do you want it worded?
How about just read what he added there?
Yeah, I would just, again, with this, I would.
The sewer lining,
Yeah,
or do you want
use it,
design work for the sewer?
I think I
mains?
would do $2 million for design and construction
For the sewer
of necessary
mains.
improvements to the sanitary sewer
Main
collection
lines?
system.
Okay.
To sewer
Did
maintenance.
you catch that?
Sewer collection system. Okay.
There you go.
So your
Amendment.
amendment would be to add a number 4, which is line work. So $2 million, a request for $2 million to fund the design, construction of necessary improvements to sewer collection, the sewer collection system.
Second?
Okay.
That's very, very broad.
Very broad, and you guys obviously can
fine-tune
tweak that
it. Yeah.
language.
Whatever
because
you
we're
think
just
is
passing the
appropriate.
resolution to allow you to do it.
Even
Okay.
if you had a specific place that you
Yeah.
wanted to add in there that you feel
Right.
needs to be done, I'm good with that.
Okay, so Counselor Hall's amendment, and it was seconded by Counselor Zanoni. There was already discussion, so all in favor of this amendment? 9 in favor?
4.
Okay, thank you, Lori. So 9 in favor, none against. So we have these 2 amendments. We apologize to both you and Aaron that now you have 4. So now we have to do discussion on this resolution as amended. I think we've kind of discussed it enough. I appreciate it, everybody. Okay, so roll call, please, on the resolution as amended.
Deputy Mayor Santinella.
4.
Counselor Ungary.
4.
Counselor Zanoni.
4.
Mayor Sakala.
4.
Counselor Crisati.
4.
Counselor Hall.
4.
Counselor Mangini.
4.
Counselor Matthews.
4.
And Counselor Pisner.
4.
9 in favor, none against.
Thank you, and thank you, Matt, for bringing this, and thank Aaron for bringing this in front of us tonight so we can see what we can get as far as some other funding sources. Okay, 16, public communications. Anyone in the audience want to come up and chat with us? No, Trish? Okay. Counselor Communications number 17? All right, motion to adjourn, please. No, Aaron.
Second.
All right, motion made and seconded to adjourn. All in favor? 9 in favor, none against. Thank you very much.